Hello and welcome to Connections as a forum for relationship, expression, and healing. And this is episode number 22. And today we're going to talk about how is your personal relationship with money and give you some tips and tricks to deal with the money ogre. And so today I have here with me Heidi Hornlein, who's my partner on Connections. She is a transformational coach who helps individuals or couples in relationship situations. And I also have with me here Mike Fountain. Welcome. And let's see. Can everybody hear me?
I can.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. So I am Margherita Crystal Lotus, and we have a little bit hips and hops here today with the technical challenges that we sometimes experience. So I wanted to ask both of you to introduce yourself a little better. Heidi, will you start?
Yeah, I think our audience already knows me quite a bit. I'm Heidi, living in Italy, and I'm German, and I'm passionate about relationships to myself, and to life, and to other people, and that's my vocation. And I'm here to really go for it. And in the talks with you, I really like to explore these things. And in this case, when we have the money question, we need to explore the relationship we have with money.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you, Heidi. And I'm so excited to have you here on the show this week. Would you give yourself a little introduction so that people will know you a little better?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Fountain. I'm I'm a coach, and I always laugh when I say I'm a coach because I feel such a fraud in saying that because I don't really feel like a coach. I love people, and people fascinate me. They fascinate me from a very, very young age, and I love getting into people's minds and understanding what people really want, how their beliefs serve them, how their beliefs prohibit them, and just equipping people with the skills and the resources to tackle life full on, to live it as a wonderful adventure rather than to be dictated to by beliefs and limitations that we impose upon ourselves, or that our family or friends or teachers impose upon us. So I always say, I laugh when I say I'm a coach, but I am. But I always find it a little bit funny when I say that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think we're all coaches here, so if people are listening, ask your questions and put your comments down below, and we will take care to answer every question we get. So I would like to start off this topic with the money ogre and introduce to you there is, in our relationship with money, we have also some of a concept called the money ogre. And what is that? The money ogre is our beliefs that we think that we're controlled by money. And the first question I'd like to ask you guys, whoever wants to go first, what do you think the money ogre is, or those beliefs we have inside? What are those, the biggest ones of them, biggest culprits to where we are with our situation with money?
I think I have talked about it a little bit last time, so I would like you, Mike, to take the first.
Now I feel pressured. See, I was busy reading all the comments and thinking, I'm going to be asked last because I'm like the last here. So, okay. Money. The biggest ogre with money. Well, okay, personally, I think for a lot of people growing up, money is something that our parents would have talked about, especially having a lack of money. It's something that I grew up with, even though, like, growing up, we weren't hard done by, but we went through at least 2 or 3 recessions. I remember growing up when we had Black Saturday, where my father lost £250,000 in shares overnight. So, you know, I always remember money being a big topic, and they're always talking about a lack, and coming out of sort of the 60s into the 70s, and talking to a generation that went through the war and had massive poverty. And I think the stigma of money is something that we still attach value and belief to. And I think it's that belief that money is something that controls us or limits us, and we give meaning to money, greater meaning to money, and to give it power rather than just using it as a commodity, or using it as a tool, or a tool essentially to measure how successful we are in terms of delivering our own product or service. The money in itself, I don't believe, is a valid measurement of success or of measuring us as people, but rather just how well we're playing the game of business or the game of life.
That is like really right on the identification. I think you nailed it there. You go in, and then your own perception of the relationship with money in yourself actually controls you. Did I get that right?
Yeah. I always say that nothing in life has any control over you until you give it control, until you give it a meaning. Money in itself, if there's a pound coin on the floor, it's just a mass of metal. It's just a lump of metal. As soon as you give it a value, it has a commodity, or as a commodity, then you can barter with it. But until you give it that value, it's meaningless, as is the paper. It has no meaning until you give it perception, give it meaning. And that's true of everything in life.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'd like to ask our audience to see if they can identify with this. Do you have a relationship with money where you're sort of tied in, blocked, you're in a difficult situation, and you don't know how to get out of there? Many people are in that situation. And so when I looked at this topic for this week, I came up with this idea about the Money Ogre has companions. And the result is sort of being in debt, being in misery, or exposing our greed. So would you like to comment on those three things? Can you start, Heidi, maybe?
I would still go back to the other question. I think it is true that money is just an exchange method, let's say. But, you know, we are growing up in different situations. And as you said before, in most situations, money is missing. And so from early childhood, most of us learn that money is something else. It is giving you status, social status, or you can lose the social status if people find out that you don't have money. So, I mean, in Germany, it was a long time that people, even if they couldn't afford it, they bought a Mercedes to show that they that they are somebody, you know. And then this big fear, which our parents, and so also we, because we learned that, which we try to hide if we have a lack of money, and we try to, you know, live over our expenses. And today, with all the possibilities with banks to give you loans and so on, this is even possible up to a certain point, and then is the crash, you know. So money is ingrained. The beliefs we have about money is so deeply ingrained in our subconscious, and if we don't be aware of that, and if you don't change this on the level of the subconscious, I think it is very, very difficult that we can get out of the grip of this money ogre.
Yeah, I think that the key for all coaches, and we're all coaches here today, when we're working with a client who has these problems, we have to dive deeper into their conditioning, right? In our own conditioning to actually access it. And when you say going into your subconscious, that is the area where we are not aware of, right? So what are some of the key symptoms that you have a money belief that does not serve you? I mean, be a little bit specific. I know debt and lack of money is some of these, but what are the specific signs? Do you have some kind of idea about that?
Symptoms for me is when in the night, for instance, I wake up and think about, oh, if it doesn't work out, and what will I do? Where do I get the money from? And stuff like that. Other symptoms is try to be, how do you say, hold back with buying stuff. And then the opposite round, then I just go, you know, when you're on holidays, just spend the money as if you had a lot. These are symptoms. And yeah, and when, for instance, my family is saying, oh, you are mad, you try every other thing, and you should have stuck to something which is really giving you, you know, why do you want something new all the time? So when I begin to believe in that or feel irritated by that, I think these are symptoms.
Yeah.
What is it for you, Mike? Or in the past? I think you have overcome that.
See, I find it really hard to think of symptoms of debt and money. And I was actually thinking that, and you know, I can't actually give any symptoms of what I would see as having a lack of money. And it's not the fact that, you know, that it's not the fact that I could retire today, because I couldn't. You know, we still need to have an income. We still, you know, we have 3 young kids that are still, you know, under 13 years of age. So there still is a lot of want and need for them, you know, with university, with other fees and other hobbies and activities they do. So there's still a need for money. But I don't have any negative association with money or any symptoms of fear regarding money. For me, I have a very simple philosophy, and that's to be engaged with everything that I'm doing, to live in the particular moment. So if I'm on this call right now, which I am obviously, it's to be fully engaged with this call. It's not to be thinking about anything else. It's not to be living in the future or living in the past. I can't affect either one of those things. All I can do now is what I'm doing here and now, which is listening, being engaged, and trying to be as connected to this conversation as I possibly can be, and to give value to the people listening and to yourselves. To go out of that and to begin to worry about what may happen in the future, that then leads me into a kind of an anxiety, an anxious state. Whereas thinking about what happened when I was younger, when, you know, I didn't know this bad. I was at a stage once in my life where I was a week away from being taken to bankruptcy, where I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost everything. And I literally mean I lost everything. And we had a young kid at the time. Okay, that was horrendous. To add on to that, we had a miscarriage with our second child, and my father passed away. So like 3 months, pretty bad. But that was then. If I was to allow that past to affect this present would be a very different situation. So I approach money and everything with life now just with living in the moment. Can I afford everything? Could I afford to go buy a brand new Mercedes? No. Oddly enough, I don't even own a car anymore. We sold our car 3 years ago because there's no need for it. Where I live and for the work I do, we have no need for a car. It's cheaper to get our groceries delivered than it is to own a car and go and get them. How crazy is that in the world we live in? There's no symptom of debt or money that I have as a negative thing. Money is something that comes to me for the engagement and the positivity and what I can do to help other people. So I don't look at clients as, oh my God, okay, I've got to get 10 clients this month. I approach it thinking, okay, there are 10 people out there in the world, that could really benefit from what I could do for them. So how can I engage with them? How can I give them an experience where they would be transformed, where their expectations would be met at such a high level that they would not know themselves from who they were a month beforehand? And if I can approach those people in that way, I will find them. And if I find them, I can deliver the experience to them. And the money then takes care of itself. I don't worry about the money. Money is a results-driven activity. I live in engagement, in giving experiences to others and to myself. Money.
I think you've hit on several gold nuggets here. Let's see if I can.
Sorry, I was in rant mode there.
One is to be in the moment, right?
Yeah, completely.
And then not project to the past or to the future. I mean, that's the biggest takeaway. And then in this moment, think about what one is doing right now. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's completely true. There's an exercise that I did a number of years ago, and it's an exercise I still do with people, and it's to ask them, you know, most of us have a fear around money, or we have our thinking about money. Okay, my question is, okay, if you have a fear about money, what is that fear serving you? What emotion does that fear take care of? Because everything that we create internally in our thinking, and then we project that onto the world. And I'll give you an example of this. I do presentations to audiences up to sort of from 50 to 200 people. And in the room, I'll put up on a projector a picture. And I'll ask people in the room saying, okay, who thinks that picture is a great picture? Or who loves that picture? And we'll get a show of hands. And okay, well, who thinks that picture's like awful, like horrendous? And we get a show of hands. And who doesn't care about the picture? And then we get a show of hands. Okay. And I'll ask them, okay, so the people who hated the picture, well, how did it make you feel? And they describe their emotions. Those who loved the picture, what did it make you feel? Like, different set of emotions. Those who didn't care, again, a different set of emotions. Now, the picture in itself didn't create any of those emotions. It was their thinking about the picture that created the internals that then created the visuals of what they saw. The picture existed, but the meaning people give it exists here. And it's the same with everything that you do. So if you have a fear about money or a belief about money, it's being created in your thinking, and you're projecting that onto the world. So it's important to discover what the emotion that your fear is creating. But then equally, is that fear, or are those emotions, are they fulfilling your calling, your destiny, your purpose, the thing that you're destined to do, that you're great at? If that is not fulfilling your higher calling, how can you ever achieve your full potential? And usually in the conversation of that, there's the aha moment, that self-realization that, you know what, I'm crippling myself from my potential. So then if you put that into reverse, thinking, well, okay, how can I create massive experience of my potential? And then it's about living in the moment again. And it's a real simple exercise of just looking at what your beliefs, do your fears currently serve, how are they serving you? And are they serving your higher needs or your higher calling? And it's a real simple exercise, but it gives you such clarity and gives you such profound breakthroughs. I think
so a person who is looking at money and have a bad association with them and hardship or lack from their childhood, they go directly to that old picture, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's so awesome, Mike. I am so glad you came today.
I would like to ask you, what do you do when people tell you, yeah, this is right, and you are right with what you are saying, but you know, I don't know how to pay next month's rent. What shall I do? What would you say to them?
Obviously, there's things, having gone through debt, massive debt myself, I know there's ways in which you can handle debt. The world today, the banks today, businesses, people in general in business, they're more willing to have you pay a little than to pay nothing. So people are more willing to work with you. If people are in debt, you know, get advice, get legal advice, go to whoever, what agencies are out there to support you, because there are agencies there to support you. I mean, I went through this, would have been what, around about 12 years ago when I went through this. So I know firsthand it's a lot easier now than what it was when I first went through it. But in answer to your question, Heidi, if you haven't got the money now, worrying about it isn't going to give it to you. The answer really should be is, what can you do to go and achieve it? What can you give in order to get it back? And
yeah,
it's a transference of your skills. When you go and meet somebody for the very first time, okay, I used to do this when I first started out. Okay, I had nothing as a coach. Okay, I had no money, I had no authority, and I used to go and drive down to meet these people, and I used to get myself in such a high state. I used to be really, really buzzing, and I used to walk into these meetings, and there'd be 3 people. I think I mentioned to you, my biggest client ever as a business coach was a company that did 27 million annually, 27 million pounds sterling annually, and had over 50 employees. And I drove up to these people, and I got myself in such a positive state that there was no way they were going to say no to me. I was going to overcome every objection. I was going to find every reason why they should say yes. And I walked into their room, and there was the boss and 2 company directors, and they did not want me there. They thought, oh no, we can do this ourselves. And I was in with them for an hour and a half, and I walked out with a check for, I think if I remember, it was about £1,500 a month they were paying me to coach them in their business, which is more money than I'd ever charged anyone beforehand. But I was that convinced. I was more convinced to getting a yes than they were convinced to get a no. And it was just, I was in an upstate, I was completely convinced that what I had would be of benefit to them, and that I was the person to deliver it to them. So in answer to your question, what do you... That's
really amazing. So what is
the steps
that you do to create that state of mind? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course I can. It comes down to the belief, again. You can't sell. If you don't believe in what you're selling and what you have to offer, you are not going to be able to influence anyone else. So it comes down, you have to believe that what you have is genuinely of worth, of value to somebody else. And I don't even know how I used to go into it, but I just go down. I just used to have all of these like mantras and incantations and stuff, thinking, you know what, I'm going to go in there, and I'm just thinking of all the positive ways that I will be able to serve them. I will find ways that they haven't identified on how they make their business better. I will do things in a way that is so amazingly cool that it will amaze them. That will find strategies. I will uncover money-saving techniques. I will stop them wasting money. And I just went through all of these different things, and my head's got my head completely wired. So when I went in there, I would ask questions, and I'd ask questions that would deliberately lead to an objection. And I would say, okay, if I could handle that, would you then go forward? And they go, well, yeah, okay, if you can handle this, then we'd go forward. Okay, right, so let's move forward. And I would go through every objection that they possibly could have until there's no objections left. And I'd answer everything. But I just got myself in such a positive state. So in answer to Heidi's earlier question, what does she do if she can't pay the bills in 3 weeks' time? You've just got to get up. You've got to get yourself up. You've got to pick yourself up, make the phone calls, get in front of people, believe in what you're selling, believe in yourself, be in a state where you are higher in your beliefs, in your concentration than the person you're speaking to, and influence them. Believe, if you genuinely believe and you know in your heart of hearts that you can help them, help them. Because if you don't, you not only fail yourself, you fail that client as well.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Actually, this is not the case for me. I don't have to pay the rent because I own the house. And I really did all my best to pay off the debts I have. Yeah. So I'm really happy to not be in the hand of the banks anymore. But you know, when we talked the other day, and for me it was really revealing this, what you said just now, to instead of fearing the objections, which I normally do, and then I get into a sort of anxiety state, and as if I have to defend myself on what I'm doing, to see objections as welcome to work it out with the client. This I really found it genius. That to have to, my own mindset has to change. Instead of fearing these things, embracing. And you said, even if I remember right, without objection is not really, they won't really do it, or something like that. You said.
Yeah. If you go into any kind of shop and you ask anyone, you know, what do they want to buy? If you ask them, let's think here, a good example. Okay, you walk into a clothes shop and the sales assistant walks up to you and goes, do you want to buy, that's a lovely dress, would you like to buy it? Well, you're just going to turn around and say no. So that salesperson's got nothing to do. If that salesperson, you walked into the shop and that same salesperson came in and said, that dress would look lovely on you, would you rather wear it in red or blue? Well, you're going to turn around and say, well, I don't want to try it in red or blue. She's now got an objection. Okay, well, what color would you like to wear? Well, I don't want this dress. Okay, well, you don't want to buy this dress. What would you like to buy? Would you like to buy these trousers or this jumper? And the salesperson is taking objections and leading you based on what your answers are. But if the salesperson doesn't ask for the objection up front, just saying, oh, this would look lovely on you, will you try it on? You know, you're going to say no. Because that's what we're all conditioned to say no. Do you want to try this? You walk down the street. Do you want to try this ice cream? No. I'm like, yeah, damn right, yeah, let me have it. But most of us say no all the time. So it's conditioning yourself to look for the objection. Understand what that person needs. And you know, Tony Robbins talks about 6 human needs, or the human need psychology. So the need for certainty, variety, significance, love, connection, growth, and contribution. We're all looking for those needs to be met in different ways. If you can find somebody who's looking for certainty, you can look for certainty in their objections. If they're looking for variety, you can look for that. You can meet their needs in different ways by uncovering what the objections are. And you can get such great deep rapport that you're no longer selling yourself or selling a product or a service. You are enabling somebody to buy you, to buy what you have to offer to help them. So it's not selling.
Yeah, you really have given me now a big insight, because my non-insisting and non-asking these questions and accepting the objections is a false understood idea of leaving other people their freedom of choice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I normally don't interfere anymore. I think, okay, they don't want, and that's what it is. And I thought I would respect them in this way, you know, for their choice. This is really a new way of seeing this. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Well, how would we translate a situation where you're selling something to a person who doesn't sell? Because I think the same process is going on with objections for anyone. How would an example look like for a person who is not thinking that they're in a selling position? Do you want to give us an example of that as well, Mike?
I'm trying to think of an answer here. I'm actually stumped in terms of thinking. So somebody who doesn't sell, who's not selling.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. See, I'm immediately drawn to relationships here.
That's the place to be, on Connections.
Because, okay. All right, I'll share this story with you. God, I'm going to make such an tit of myself, tell you. Right. Okay, selling like relationships, okay, if that two things fit together here. I think how best to put this together in my mind. Okay. Okay, fear. So coming from a point of fear or rejection or failure or hearing the words no, which most of us are conditioned to avoid. We don't want to hear those things. We fear rejection. We fear hearing the words no, etc. So that's the same kind of thing. So we're not selling a product or service. We don't want to hear the words no, fear, rejection, go away, you're not worthy, etc. So when I was younger, when I was in my very early 20s, so bad. Anyway, okay. Right, I was out one night on a night out with my friends. I was in this club, and I was single. And I thought, okay, well, I want to go and meet a girl and have a dance with a girl. Who knows what happens? Anyway, so I ended up chatting to this first girl, and I just got rejected straight away. I thought, fair enough. Okay, so I'll try again, and I got rejected again, and I got rejected again and again and again and again. And eventually I got to the stage where I thought, you know what, I've actually given in on this, so I'm just going to see how many times I can get rejected in one night. And I ended up getting rejected about 37 times.
Oh my goodness!
Pretty amazing. Yeah, 37 times. And it wasn't, I mean, it was asking people, do you want to drink or do you want to dance? Or something like that. And I don't dance very well, so it's understandable why they'd say no. But 37 times, So even if you're not selling yourself, it's not if you're living your life by a fear of rejection or hearing the words no, you'll never progress to anything in life. You'll never move forward in your career, in your work. You'll never move forward in relationships because you're too scared to ask the person who could be the right person for you or how to get the promotion because you're too fearful of hearing the words no, or you're too fearful of living in your mind, in your imagination, of thinking of what your boss will say to you, or because in the past something happened to you, you're now dragging that forwards and you're portraying, you're portraying that into the future of what will happen to you. So whether you're selling a product or a service, or you're selling yourself, either at work or in relationships or anything, your fear of what may happen will be the biggest hindrance to you actually going and achieving success. So I had 37 no's that night. Luckily, I had a lot more no's from that point onwards until I met Catherine when I was 29. It was kind of fun getting lots of no's. But, hearing those no's didn't stop me. Now I have 3 young kids, and I've seen my kids grow up. And, I've seen my kids grow from an age of being so young where no has no meaning to them. It's like, Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? No! Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I have? No means nothing to them. There's no fear of hearing the words no to them. Daddy, can I have? Daddy, can I? Well, what about Daddy if I can have it this way? No! Leave me alone! And you give in eventually as a parent. Well, sometimes you do. But they don't have any conditioning of hearing the words no. They just keep on asking. And I've seen them grow up. I've seen them learn to walk, to run, to talk, to use cutlery instead of using their hands and getting mashed potato and food all over their face and hair, etc. I've seen them learning to overcome their own fears, their own rejections, their own failures of not being popular in school, to being popular, to being successful, to being top of their class, to being the fastest runners. I've seen them go through all their journeys. And all the time, they're not using their fear or their failings as the thing to prohibit them. They're using their calling, what they can be, their potential, to fuel them, to drive them. So the answer to your question, Margherita, is, irrespective of whether you're selling yourself, your services, your product, looking for a relationship, looking to get the career movement, your fear is only serving a particular emotion at a particular time. And if that emotion or that fear isn't serving your higher need, your higher calling, it's prohibiting you. And the answer to the question then becomes, well, what do I actually want? And what experiences do I want to experience? and how can I give other people those experiences?
Mm-hmm.
The answers to those questions are what fuel your life going forward.
So I think that we got a real good. Go ahead, Heidi.
I wanted to ask, what practices do you suggest to people to overcome these fears? Because it's not a mental thing that you can say, I don't want to have this fear, and from tomorrow on, I don't have this fear anymore. It just doesn't work like that. What practices do you use I mean, with your clients, and probably at the beginning, very beginning with yourself,
to
step out of these fears?
So, the thing, as I said earlier, very early on, is I sat down and I acknowledged that I had, actually, I mentioned to you yesterday, growing up, I was brought up by my grandparents. I was adopted when I was 6 months of age. I was then run over when I was 13, and I resented my grandparents and my life from that point onwards until I was about 23, 24 years of age. It was the realization, if somebody comes looking for an answer, then it's easy to give them, to help them. You can't enforce change on somebody unless they're willing to take that change or willing to move forward themselves. When you're ready to look forward for the change and you acknowledge that things aren't right, it's asking simple questions. There isn't a magic cure that one size fits all. For me, it was asking the questions of, the way I'm living my life right now, what am I protecting myself from? What are these needs? What are these behaviors and activities? How are they serving me? What are they protecting me from? What are they giving me? And they gave me, I remember doing this exercise myself, and they gave me a whole lot of answers. I was just getting into psychology and to coaching at the time, into hypnosis, etc. I was actually looking for help. And this is how I became a coach, really, is I was looking for help from other people who couldn't help me. So I thought, well, instead of going to those people, let's just learn myself. So I began to learn. And I just do all these exercises. And then what do these things give me? What are they giving me right now? And then on the other side, I thought, well, what do I actually want? What do I want my life to look like? And then I thought, well, do these actions and these behaviors, do they allow me to achieve this on this side? And they didn't. So in the case of, well, I've got to change these behaviors, I've got to change these actions in order to get this. And that was as simple as that. Did it happen overnight? No. Were there quite a few knockbacks? Yeah. Was it hard? Yeah, damn right it was hard. Was there a lot of tears? Yeah, quite a few. I forgave myself. I'm not perfect. Far from it. I forgave other people. I forgave my grandparents. I looked at life through their eyes. The fact that my grandfather had never had his own father, because his own father had been killed in World War I. Okay, so he never had a father to live up to. My mother, my biological mother, she was 17 when I was born. Back then, in the early 70s, it was the end of the 60s. I was born on 1st of January 1970, so the very first day of the new decade. But back then, it was very common for children to be adopted if you were out of wedlock. And that was actually, I actually had foster parents lined up for me at birth. And then my grandfather said, no, we'll look after him, and you can go off and do whatever you want to go and do. So they raised me. But it wasn't until I actually looked through my eyes at what he had experienced and his upbringing that I could begin to see that what he did was the best for him at that particular time with the skill set that he had. So he did the very best that he could do, as did my grandmother, as did my mother, as did everyone else. So how could I hold on to any anger about what had happened? I could only live in the moment. And that's the key, I think the key message for me anyway, is to live in the moment, to be completely connected with who you are right now, connected to what your calling is, connected to where you believe life should take you, and to be fully immersed in that moment, to love that moment, to love what you do, to transfer that emotion, that energy, that passion to other people. If you do that, you may not become a millionaire, but you'll enjoy life. Life will have passion, life will have purpose, and you will impact so many other people in such a positive way that at the end of your life, you look back and you go, you know what, I had a great life. what more can you ask for?
You're really the good example of your words, you know. You're really emanating this belief or this way of this attitude of being in this world and being effectively in this world. And this is very nice. And I think you are one of the people who were able to do it by themselves. But I think most people would need some help from outside. And that's what we are coaches for, you know. So you know, we offer to people exactly that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time as a coach, for me anyway, I don't believe there's a prescriptive process that one size fits all. It's a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. It's an understanding. It's having empathy without having sympathy. And the reason I say that is, as soon as you have sympathy for somebody, you're nothing more than a prostitute in terms of coach. You have to have empathy, but you have to retain distance. Is to have empathy, to have connection, but there has to be meaningful dialogue to equip that person to make change themselves, to create those aha moments, those revealing insights of what life could be like, and then to support and to encourage, to develop strategy, and to enable them to move forward. It's not to do it for them. I am a qualified clinical hypnotherapist. And what I would see time and time again is people looked at me as the person of the cause of their change. No, I didn't create the change. You did. All I gave you some tools to help you make the change. So as a coach now, I use a whole host of different strategies. Sometimes I can be quite obnoxious and rude and direct and straight and call your bluff. And sometimes I'll be quite sympathetic and laid back. Not sympathetic. I'll have empathy, but I'll sit back and I'll guide you through the process. There's a conversation, and it's a conversation about what do your behaviors currently give you? How do they meet your current needs? What do they serve you? And is that serving your higher calling?
Yeah,
it's a conversation.
I think that's a very, very great description, Mike, about the process of going to get help with somebody. So we're nearing the end of this episode. And so, Heidi, would you like to give us a little bit takeaway for you? And then we're going to go to Mike, and then I at the last. So will you start, Heidi?
Yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway with the encounter with Mike is actually what I said before, you know, that not to fear obstacles, not to fear no, which I intuitively in some ways still were doing, you know, try to avoid the no's and be a nice girl, you know. But see them really as something which can empower you. To, as you said, to create connection, even deeper connection. Because I know it from my relationship, the more we work through the issues, the more we get connected. And I imagine that with clients is the same thing, you know. And the other thing, what you said, to go out and tell people what you can offer instead of waiting that they are coming and find you somewhere. Yeah. So I tell people I can offer a lot of things, and transformation and wonderful Italian holidays and retreats in our country house. So I say it just now. Thank you for the encouragement.
You're very, very welcome. Very, very welcome.
Oh, good.
So what's your takeaway from this episode, Mike?
You know what? It's to live life with passion and purpose. To live life the way. Don't allow anything to dictate upon you how you should feel externally. Okay, your life exists in your mind, and from your mind you paint the world around you. You can choose to be happy. You can choose to be wealthy. You can choose to have anything and everything your heart desires. But it comes from internally. As soon as you put outside on the world that your neighbors have something better, or there's something better around the corner, you start hunting externally. The answers lie within you. And usually it's just happiness. if you can find happiness and self-fulfillment, everything else will follow naturally. And that's my takeaway from this.
Okay, that's really cool. So my takeaway is this. Anyone who listens out there, it's possible to be as successful and as happy and as rich, really, as you can, and as you want. The only limiting factor here is what you believe is possible. And if you want to work on your beliefs, there's a host of helpers out there that you can ask. But the main ingredient is dive in and face those fears. Like we heard Mike tell about the 37 times she was rejected. And then finally, not right away, but a few years later, he got the perfect woman of his life and mother of his children. So it is really possible. That's my takeaway. Okay. So thank you all for listening to this episode, and we're coming back every Thursday at 9 a.m. on Eastern Time, or in CST time, 3 p.m. in Europe. So say hello, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you so much for listening, and we see you next time.